This is Inside the League with James Groh on the Global Sports Network. Welcome to Inside the League on the Global Sports Network. My name is James Groh, and it is episode number 5. That is a milestone episode here. 5 episodes deep now. Wow, I can't believe already into the 5th episode. Welcome to everybody listening in on Mixlr, everybody tuning in on Periscope. If you would like to see what people are listening to on Mixlr, just go to mixlr.com/the Global Sports Network. And if you're on Mixlr and you want to see what it all looks like behind the scenes, what it looks like live, then you can go to my Twitter, which is James_Grow14, and follow the live stream on Periscope. It's episode 5, and we've got a good one for you today. To start things off on the day, the potential last game of this season's College World Series is underway right now. It's the bottom of the 5th inning. Coastal Carolina is tied with Arizona 2 apiece. Now Arizona is up to bat right now in the bottom of the 5th, so we will keep you updated with that game as it goes along. Right now, though, it's Arizona making a comeback. Arizona scored in the bottom of the 1st, but then Coastal Carolina came back and took the lead in the top of the 3rd with 2 runs of their own, and Arizona got a run back in the bottom of the 5th. Score lines for each team so far is Coastal Carolina 2 runs, 4 hits, no errors. Arizona 2 runs, 6 hits, 1 error. I think it's interesting, the College World Series, because so many teams, or it's 8 teams that get there after, the regionals and then the super regionals. Then you have the College World Series and then the College World Series finals. And that's where we finally are in. And what I think is an absolutely awesome fact is that there's no ranked team in the final series right now. Coastal Carolina and Arizona, both unranked teams. And also what I think is kind of cool is it's always been held in Omaha, Nebraska, regardless of whether or not, University of Nebraska or any team from Nebraska is in the finals. It's actually been held in Omaha, Nebraska for the past 66 years, since 1950. That's where the College World Series has been played, and it almost was going to change its location, but then Omaha officials as well as the NCAA came to an agreement when they built TD Ameritrade Park, which is the home of the College World Series. So the College World Series is guaranteed to be in Omaha until at least 2035. But we will keep you updated as that game continues. But we start off today's episode with what I think. And we're back on Inside the League here on the Global Sports Network. Just 15 minutes past 7 o'clock. Now we're going to kind of bring down the mood just a little. Some sad news today in the passing of 2 absolutely phenomenal coaches. Buddy Ryan died today, as well as Pat Summitt. Buddy Ryan, he was famous for being a defensive coordinator. He implemented the 46 defense with the 1985 Bears, that infamous super strong, hit him in the face defense. And with that team, they won Super Bowl 20. And he's always going to know for his defensive schemes and his tactics and how, he threw caution to the wind. And he really played the rough and hit him up style. He said to his players, hit him in the face. Hit him in the mouth where it hurts. Let's be aggressive and physical. And we really haven't seen a Bears defense, or really any defense like that since. You could say, the Broncos had a great defense last year, or what about the Ravens when they had Ed Reed and Ray Lewis? Sure, those were hard-hitting teams, and even the Bears back in the mid-2000s when they were anchored by Urlacher, but no defense compares to the anger and to the incredible play style that those 85 Bears played with. It was anger, it was grace, it was fun to watch, but it was also gruesome. And check out the players that were on that team. Check out these Hall of Famers: Mike Singletary, Richard Dent, and Dan Hampton. So, three amazing players to say you coached. Buddy Ryan today died June 28th, 2016. He was 85. Pat Summitt also succumbed to Alzheimer's today. She was the Tennessee Lady Vols basketball coach for 38 seasons, starting out when she was just 22-year-old. She started coaching in 1974, and simultaneously she was teaching classes and going to grad school at the University of Tennessee. She is the first coach, men or women, in D1 history to reach 1,000 wins. She's won 8 national championships, went to 22 Final Fours. She holds 16 SEC titles. She won the 1990 basketball gold medal as a coach. She was inducted into the Basketball Hall of Fame in 2000. And she is 13-9 against Gino Auriemma in UConn. Now, Pat Summitt, she's a blessing for women's sports. You know, it's hard for me to talk, and I don't really have the most authority and knowledge on the subject, but I do know a little bit about Pat Summitt, and she was an ambassador not only for the game of basketball, but for women in basketball, and she helped get the NCAA to adopt women's basketball into the NCAA. So out of those 8 titles, actually about only 6 are NCAA national championships. She helped establish women's basketball in the SEC. She was also the one who she was never afraid of a challenge, which is exactly why she petitioned the NCAA for Tennessee to play UConn, even though they were in different conferences. She thought it would be good for the game of basketball. Pat Summitt, she died today, June 28th, 2016. She was 66 years old. We'll be back on Inside the League after this short break. Irving, that's 5. There we go. I couldn't count. Incredible lineup. Moving on to the NBA draft, which just happened not too long ago. Ben Simmons was drafted first, as expected, then followed by Brandon Ingram, and then Jaylen Brown was picked 3rd overall by the Celtics. That was the surprise pick out of Cal Berkeley that took everyone by surprise. I think the coolest thing, though, in this year's NBA draft is the amount of international players that were drafted. 4 non-Native Americans drafted in the top 10 for the first time in NBA history. 4 in the top 10. That's awesome. And then in total, out of the first round, 11 players were picked from European leagues, and there was 12 foreign-born players in total picked out of the first 30. So over a third of the players are international. That's awesome in this in the first round. That's really cool what basketball is becoming, that it's becoming really international. You know, soccer, let's say that's the most international sport in the world. And then maybe baseball. Probably baseball. I don't know. Maybe it's tied with cricket, or I don't really know cricket that well. I know it's big, but I don't know how big. Let's call it baseball for the sake of argument. Baseball is pretty international. Or, well, maybe it lacks any European presence or African presence. But then again, you're always going to be missing somebody or some nation. Is that true? Maybe that's not true. And then basketball. Basketball is showing itself as an international sport. Now, look at the countries where those 11 players were drafted from. A couple of players were drafted from the same country, so there's not 12 in total. But it's Cameroon, Australia, Spain, Croatia, Austria, Sudan, Lithuania, Greece, France, Serbia, and Turkey. So look at that. You got Europe, Asia, Oceania, Africa, and the U.S. And North America. So that's 5 continents out of 7. That's pretty damn good if you're asking me. Basketball is moving in the right direction. keep talking about the exciting things in sports. Copa America. We're always talking about a championship one way or another on the show, it seems. 5 shows in a row, and we're talking about championships. College World Series update. Let's see if anything has happened. Still 2-2, top of the 7th. Coastal Carolina up to bat. But Copa America just ended. Chile defended their title when they beat Argentina in penalties 4-2. Now, the surprising and biggest storyline that came afterwards was Messi saying that he's going to retire. He's reached the finals of the Copa, or every tournament he's played in internationally, he's reached the finals. Now, that's been 3 Copa America finals and 1 World Cup final, and every time he's come up short. And so he said, I'm retiring. I can't do this anymore. But Sergio Romero, the goalie, when he was asked by reporters about what he thought of Messi's comments about retiring, he said, "What? Messi retiring? No, that's not going to happen. Messi's not retiring. He's just talking because he's emotional, and it's just after the game. Give him some time." And I think that's true because, yeah, it's really, really hard to lose 4 times in the finals, especially when you're supposed to be the best player in the world. And he's also the most scrutinized player in Argentina. You know, everybody's going to say Messi isn't the greatest, and he's not the greatest Argentinian footballer until he wins a championship. Until he wins on the international stage, he can win as many titles in Spain as he wants to. He can win the Champions League, the Copa del Rey, La Liga as many times. He can win them all. He can get the treble 15 times in a row. But in Argentinians' hearts, they're never going to allow him to be the best until he wins on the international stage. Maradona is always going to be the classic Argentinian footballer until Messi can, get that monkey off his back and get that breakthrough. But, that's not really fair to him because he's incredible. He's, arguably one of the best to ever play the game. And he's magic on the field, and the way that he puts his team on his back. I mean, he's the all-time leading goal scorer for Argentina. He scores goals on a regular basis for the team. He scored like 56, 57, I think, is now the total. So it's kind of unfair, but at the same time, you measure teams, you measure their greatness, and you measure players by their championships. And that's the same thing we're doing with the Warriors right now. The Warriors didn't win the championship, which makes them not the greatest team. That 73-9 team isn't one of the greatest to ever go down in history. It is, but it's not the best because they didn't win. Now let's talk about the referee. He had no control over that game. Looking back at his track record, he's given at least 3 yellow cards in 10 of his last games. 3 yellow cards in each of his last 10 games? Come on, FIFA, how can you let something like that happen? The U.S. got to the semifinals, which I think is a great thing for their team, which was pretty inconsistent throughout the entire tournament. They didn't have a solid starting lineup, because they had yellow card accumulations or they had an injury. And I think you got to give props to Klinsmann for, still fielding a team that, showed chemistry and really showed some moments of brilliance. Now, when they played Argentina, though, it was like JV versus varsity. And then once they played Colombia, well, the third-place games never really matter. It's hard to get players jazzed up for a third-place game because there's nothing really on the line for them except for a bronze medal. So it's like, I don't fault them for that. Yes, I would have liked to see them get third place, but in the end, nobody cares about that third or fourth place game. Some people say, we should be mad at the U.S. for not doing better. Well, they got to the semifinals, which is really good for U.S. standards, especially in the Copa America. In the World Cup, I don't know if they'll get to the semifinals. I don't think so. I think a great outing would be if the U.S. could get to the quarterfinals, because they're not one of the 4 best teams in the world. We all know that. We're not kidding anybody. I think right now they're ranked 33rd by FIFA. But I say overall, great show. Well, that does it for episode 5 of Inside the League. Thank you very much to tuning in. You can catch Inside the League next week at Tuesday at 7 o'clock on the Global Sports Network. My name is James. Once again, thank you for listening. Until next week, so long. Baby, 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 right on, baby, 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 right on, baby.